Thank you. Earth science.
Hi, my name is Alex. My pronouns are they, them, and my access needs are met.
Thank you. Economics.
Hi, my name is Sandra. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm just on my phone right now. I'm heading home from work, so I'm gonna have to come back and join on my laptop, if that's okay.
No problem. Thank you. Education.
Hi, Adrian. Pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are being met right now.
Thank you. Engineering science.
Hi, my name is Alvin. My pronouns are he, him, his. All my needs are met.
Thank you. English.
Hi, my name is Liz. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and all of my access needs are met.
Thank you. Environmental science.
Hi, my name is Chloe. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. French.
Hi, my name is Kylie. I use she, her pronouns, and all of my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. Gender, sexuality, and women's studies.
Hi, everyone. I'm Devin. She, her pronouns. My accessibility needs are met, and a happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh yeah, I forgot today's St. Patrick's Day. Thank you. Geography.
Hi, my name is Winnie. My pronouns is she, her, hers. My accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. History.
Hi, my name's Alan. Pronouns he, him, his, and my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. Humanities.
Hi, my name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. Indigenous Studies Student Union.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. Pronouns are she, her, hers, and my accessibility needs are all met. Thanks.
Thank you. Interactive Arts and Technology.
Hello, my name is Jeremy. Pronouns he, him, or they, them. All my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. International Studies.
Hello, everyone. My name is Aaliyah. My pronouns are she, her, and all of my access needs are met.
Thank you. Labor Studies.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin. My pronouns are he, him, his, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you. Linguistics.
Hello, my name is Bree. I use she, her pronouns, and all my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. Mathematics.
Hi, I'm Ben. My pronouns are he, him, his, and all my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. Mechatronics. Yeah, mechatronics sends their regrets. MBB.
Hi, my name is Kyle. Pronouns are he, him. All my needs are met.
Thank you, Kyle. Operations research. Is the operations research representative present? Thank you. Philosophy.
Hi, my name is Tony. He, him, his, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you. Physics.
Hi, my name is Manuel. Access needs are met, and he, him, his pronouns.
Thank you. PSSU sends their regrets. Psychology.
Hi, my name is Tiffany. My pronouns are she, they, and all my access needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. Society of Arts and Social Sciences.
Hi, my name is Akam. My pronouns are she, her, and all my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. Sociology and Anthropology.
Hi, my name is Kayla. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my accessibility needs have been met.
Thank you. Software systems.
Hi, my name is Mahek. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. Statistics.
Hi, my name is Stephanie. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. Sustainable Energy Engineering Student Society.
Hi, I'm Maven, she, her, and all my needs are met.
Thank you. World Literature.
Hello, I'm Sada. Pronouns she, her, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you. We're now on to our constituency group representatives, starting with Disability and Neurodiversity Alliance.
Hi, my name is Serena. My pronouns are she, they. And for accessibility needs, I'm currently in another meeting as well. And my internet is kind of unstable, so I might be in and out.
All right, thank you for the heads up. First Nation Student Association.
Hi, my name is Lauren. My pronouns are she, her, and all of my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. SAC sends their regrets. Students of Caribbean and African ancestry. Is the SOCA rep present? Women's Center Collective.
Hi, my name is Nisha. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are being met.
Thank you. Now moving on to our board of directors, starting with the president.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asab. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs have been met.
Thank you. VP Finance.
Hi, sorry. Name's Corbett, pronouns are he, him, his, and all my access needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. VP Student Life.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer, she, her pronouns, and I have to leave around 5:20-ish.
No problem. Thank you for letting us know. All right, moving on. Are either of our at-large representatives present? Don't think so. Faculty representative of science.
Hey everyone, my name is Wei-Chen, my pronouns are he, him, his, and my access needs are currently met.
Thank you. And moving on to staff, our board organizer.
Good afternoon. My name is Gabriel. My pronouns are they, them, and my accessibility needs are met.
Thank you. All right, that is the end of roll call. Now going to move on to item 4. 4.1, be it resolved to ratify regrets from Nicholas Bonilla. Would anyone like to move this motion?
MBBSU moves.
MBBSU moves. Would anyone like to second?
French seconds.
French seconds. Now into discussion. I'm going to move to amend this item to include Helen Pahot, Ryan Stoles, and Kimia Rezayan. Would anyone like to second this amendment?
History seconds.
History seconds. Any discussion on the amendment? Don't believe so. Going to move to vote on the amendment to the motion. Seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to dissent, please object now. Seeing no objections, the motion is now amended. The motion now reads, be it resolved to ratify regrets from Nicholas Bonilla, Helen Pahot, Ryan Stoles, and Kimia Rezayan. Is there any discussion on this motion? Don't see any. Going to move to vote. I'm once again seeking unanimous consent. Seeking unanimous consent. If you would like to dissent, please object now. Seeing no objections, this motion carries as amended. Now on to item 5. adoption of the agenda. Motion reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. Would anyone like to move this motion?
MBBSU moves.
MBBSU moves. Would anyone like to second?
Math seconds.
Math seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion on this item, I'll now move to vote. Seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to dissent, please object now. Seeing no objections, this motion carries unanimously. Now on to item 6, matters arising from the minutes. Motion reads, be it resolved to receive and file the following minutes. Council, January, February, March 3rd, 2021. Still have to count. Would anyone like to move this motion? Would anyone like to move this motion?
MBBSU moves.
MBBSU moves. Would anyone like to second?
History
Criminology seconds.
History seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing no discussion, I'm once again going to seek unanimous consent to vote on this item. Seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to dissent, please object now. Seeing no objections, this motion carries unanimously. Please, guys, don't be scared. Please, you guys can just unmute your mics and say whether you'd like to move or second, so then we don't have to wait with that awkward silence. Now moving to item 7.1, Council Liaison. Seeing that Ryan is not here, Kayla, you have the floor.
Thank you. So last meeting, a DNA executive is added to the accessibility committee, and for housekeeping, the minutes is filed. And club and student union funding guidelines will be published more clearly on the website with changes to check and grant acquisition. And accessibility coordinator can now approve grants under a limit to prevent bureaucracy. And in the past, the coordinator would normally have to get approval. And there is also a discussion on letter from SFU 350, such as divesting SFUSS from carbon extracting and burning industries. And SFSS will sign and distribute open letter condemning the arrest of pipeline protesters. Also, the inclusive events workshop has happened 4 hours ago, and there is also approval for the change of health and dental plan reserve fund to reflect changes made to the health plan to ensure the emergency fund can cover anything that will be covered by the health and dental plan. There is also a discussion about who to fill the VP of People, Equity and Inclusion Board, and there is priorities for this position in the document. So if you would like more information, you can also look at Jennifer's report.
All right, thank you, Kayla. 7.2, Board Liaison. Jennifer, you have the floor.
Okay, I'm gonna copy paste a bunch of links in the chat that includes the report and everything. But I also saw that I'm doing my VP Student Life report after, so all the links I'm gonna talk about are there. I put it in the chat just now. But sorry, there's only 2 memes on this report, but it was a long meeting. But we did place bets on how long we thought the meeting would be and how many pages we thought this report would be. And I won. I got the number like exactly right. So I got bragging rights for that. But other than what Kayla mentioned about the meeting, we also had a motion regarding the SFU Black Caucus statement in response to the McKay report, which came as a result of the alum arrest in December. So a board member was reiterating what the report had said, which is talking about like safe walk, which is news because it says there's inside the statement, you can find it linked in the stuff I put in the chat. But the Black Caucus statement says that the McKay report indicates that a request for safe walk was the reason for the incident, but it's inadequate justification as the media has been replete with instances where Black people are seen as a threat for simply existing in white spaces. So the board talked about how this sets a dangerous precedent as people would call the police on Black people for just being on campus and there would be no safeguards in place to protect them. And I also spoke up in support of this motion, especially because the SFU Black Caucus is made up of Black students, alumni, faculty, and staff at SFU. And then some board members were talking about systemic racism, and we also talked about, kind of like related, but we also talked about the SFU VP People, Equity, and Inclusion search. So we recommended changes to the candidate profile because we didn't want to make it like another HR and personnel role that focused on faculty relations. We really wanted it to be student facing, like helping students. So those are the two highlights. Kayla already talked a lot about some of the other stuff we talked about in the board meeting. You can read about it in this 15-page report in more detail.
Thank you, Jennifer. Now going to move on to item 8, 8.1. Item 8, reports from board executive directors. 8.1, VP Student Life. Jennifer, you have the floor again.
Oh, okay. Wait. I also wanted to mention that SFU Engineering Science Student Society presented at the last board meeting, and we passed a motion to support their bid to host the president's meeting. You can find it all on the report. But anyway, what I wanted to talk about for my VP Student Life report, basically a lot has happened, and I've been working on like the SFSS Women of the Year awards and stuff. In the links that I put in the chat, you can find like a link tree to the SFSS events thing. You can click to RSVP for the Women of the Year award celebration. It'll be like a social networking type of event, and it's happening next Friday. I also set up an inclusive event planning workshop that was this afternoon. Let me know if you want to link to that recording, because it was recorded, but we're not going to release it publicly on YouTube. So email me. My email is in the chat. Email me if you want to watch the recording. I also did like a healthy study snack workshop with SFU Recreation. It's on their Instagram. And then there was also a Surrey Campus Committee 2000 Music Throwback Trivia Night last Saturday. And you can find the post-event reports for all of these in the chat. And I linked all the post-event reports and stuff. And that's all for my report for now.
Thank you, Jennifer. We're now going to move on to item 8.2. So Gabe sent an email to me. He won't be able to make it today, but he will be sending out his report to council by the end of the week. So do keep an eye on your emails. Now going to move on to item 9, 9.1, supporting the SFU Black Caucus statement in response to the McKay report summary. Before we begin discussing this item, I'd like to acknowledge that the motion we're about to discuss is a sensitive topic for many of us. And as such, I'd like to remind everyone to be mindful of their words, biases, and the impact that this discussion can have on the vulnerable of our community. I'd like everyone to commit to keeping the space respectful and productive. Also, on that note, if I find that discussion has become argumentative, accusatory, or back and forth, I will end discussion. Just going to post a little review for everyone regarding discussion procedure. All right, so please everyone read over that. I'm now going to read out the motion. Whereas the McKay report summary investigating the Black alumnus arrest on December 11th, 2020 was released on March 11th, 2021. Whereas on October 14th, 2020, Council unanimously voted in favor of a motion titled BLM Solidarity, which included that Council stands in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and Black and Indigenous peoples who continue to be disproportionately subject to violence due to over-policing. Whereas on December 16th, 2021, Council voted in favor of signing on to the Black SFU staff and allies letter, which condemned the violent arrest and supports anti-racism efforts for the empowerment and protection of Black communities. Whereas the SFU Black Caucus released a statement on March 12, 2021 that wholeheartedly rejects the findings of this report and counts it as further evidence of systemic racism at SFU. Be it resolved that Council and SFSS councillors who vote in favor of this motion sign on to and support the SFU Black Caucus statement titled SFU Black Caucus Response to the Release of McKay Report on December 11th, Violent Arrest of a Black SFU Alumnus. Be it further resolved that Council distributes the SFU Black Caucus response to the release of the McKay report and amplifies the calls of the caucus. Would anyone like to move this motion?
MBBSU moves.
MBBSU moves. Would anyone like to second?
Criminology seconds.
Criminology seconds. All right, the floor is now open for discussion. Once again, please make sure that you read the rules that I have put down in the chat. You may list yourself and I'll acknowledge you. Serena, you have the floor.
Thanks, Zaid. So I brought forward this motion because after reading the McKay report or the external report put out by SFU, it was evident that basically SFU was just trying to cover themselves legally, so there weren't any ramifications, and they didn't really address any of the underlying causes or any other reasons why the violence took place against the Black alumnus. And on March 12th, the SFU Black Caucus released their statement in response to the McKay report. And I included some context in the motion because I think it's really important that we recognize and go through with the statements and motions that we put forth in the past in solidarity with Black students and the Black community in general at SFU. So if you haven't read the statement, sorry, it outlines a few of the troubling elements of the report. It says that nothing in the report explains the violence that was unleashed on the alumnus, and that the indication that the request for the safe walk was the reason for the violence is unjustified, and there aren't really any policies that back that up. And they didn't really identify any racism or racial inequities even that did lead up to this event. And I think their calls and demands are especially important as well. And I can read that out for everyone. We demand support for the alumnus, a member of the SFU community, in the form of financial reparation, healing supports, and legal representation should he need and request it. And that the students' request for de-escalation be heard, and that conversations between the students and SFU be
Serena, your 2 minutes have been reached.
Okay.
All right, Kyle, you have the floor.
Thank you, Zaid. So I'd just like to call into some clarity for the motion, as was probably going to be finished up, unfortunately, due to time. We were going on at the final statement is be it further resolved that Council distributes this Black Caucus letter. Based on the wording, I assume that means that we are all in support of all of the conclusions that the Black Caucus letter brings to a jump, or not limited to, of course, wholeheartedly rejecting the findings of the report, accounting at further evidence of systemic racism as SFU, and also going into about demanding of financial reparation, healing supports, legal representation, also demanding that another full public inquiry, which I'm not quite clear on whether they want another independent investigation to occur going forth. Those are some of the conclusions within the Black Caucus report, which I'm confused and not sure if something we as council should actually be pushing forward on behalf of them. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Serena, you have the floor.
Yeah, so just to answer Kyle's question, so that was the purpose of the Be It Further Resolved, is so that we could distribute this among our DSU's constituency groups to amplify the calls that are being made, and to try to help the SFU Black Caucus amplify their demands and get results for their demands as well. So I think that's really important given our previous stances on Black Lives Matter and standing in solidarity with the Black community. If anyone has any further ideas of how to amplify it, I don't think SFSS Council has social media. I'm not sure if that was changed. I think that was something that we spoke about, but it would be great if we do vote in favor of this motion, that we could post that on social media as well. Sorry, I'm just seeing Devin's question here. Yeah, I can definitely send it again in the chat.
Thank you, Serena. Just to answer your question, we do have an Instagram account. As Wei Chen just pointed out, we haven't been exactly very active on it. However, I have asked Adrian to put up a couple posts just regarding our meetings and stuff. So yeah, if we were to pass this motion, we could definitely post that on our Instagram. We don't have a Facebook or any other social media, however. Kyle, you have a direct response.
Thank you for clarifying, Serena. So I'd just like to draw to attention, again, one of the specific points that is stated in the Black Caucus report, where they're demanding like financial reparation. If correct me if I'm wrong, but there's also already been a GoFundMe page where that raised over about $6,000. Is it right for council to be asking SFU, which will obviously go back to the students, to pay again for this alumni, this financially reparate them?
Thank you, Kyle. Also, do you have a direct response?
Yeah, just to touch on that piece around the financial reparation, healing supports, etc. With the GoFundMe, that was a private thing where private citizens and individuals were able to donate if they saw fit. So I don't really see that as being a piece to this particular conversation. However, this is more in regards to SFU's handling of the incident and the need to essentially make amends and to do better, particularly with the amount of violence that was unleashed on this individual. And I think that's also kind of, touched on in the summary where, very flippantly and very casually, it's mentioned that the individual was tasered to the head. And I'm not sure if you guys have a lot of info on what tasering is or what kind of impacts it has on the body. It can oftentimes lead to cardiac complications because it oftentimes gets deployed to your back or to your chest. And there have been people who have had seizures and brain damage and other complications that are serious, very, very serious when being deployed to the head, particularly in this instance on someone who is not armed. And I'm happy to kind of go into the Black Caucus statement, as I am a member of the Black Caucus and also as an individual signed on to this document. So I'm more than happy to go into any kind of pieces that may make you feel that this, any pieces that you may not fully understand with regard to some of the demands that are being made. I'm more than happy to provide clarification on.
Thank you, Asab. Corbett, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you. Excuse me. So yeah, I signed on to the letter as not just as SFSS board director, but also as a student rep on the SFE Board of Governors. I've actually made very clear to my colleagues on the board of my particular perspective on the summary report and how inadequate it is and how confusing its recommendations are and how ineffective they will be that it provides no real value to SFU and to our students and SFU's faculty and staff, especially racialized members of this community. And that to me, it comes off more as a legal liability coverage situation as opposed to honestly exploring the systematic racism and institutional racism that I view occurs on campus, and especially in this incident. And I have redoubled my calls both as an SFS board member, but also as a board of governors representative for a full redacted, for confidential, like to cover somebody's personal information, but that a full report should be released. Just to understand the full aspect of how the investigation occurred, who was, well, not who was interviewed because that would be confidential, but just the summary itself is ineffective and inefficient. Sorry, not inefficient, inadequate. I'm not speaking on behalf of the board of governors, obviously, but I just wanted to say that I'm approaching this as advocating for this as in multiple areas.
Sorry, Corbett, your time is up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Kyle, you have a direct response.
Thank you, Corbett. And you touched on some good things, but I guess it comes back to, while it's fine to say that some of it was confusing and could have been proposed better, and some of it seems like a bit malarkey or whatever, wouldn't it be better to focus our efforts on asking for a full release of the report rather than making conclusions on the way the evidence was compiled, or because we still don't know the evidence, and that is a big issue. I think it is our right as part of this community to learn about the evidence and see it for ourselves in full time. I'm not sure that making any conclusions on what the evidence, it riles people up because it's all circumstantial. We don't know what the independent investigator found out. We don't know how they came to those conclusions. So arguing against them is just throwing our words against the wind.
All right, thank you. For everyone, I'm just going to ask that you please use direct responses to address specific questions quickly. As you can see, there aren't a whole lot of people listing, so you will have the chance to speak. So please do just list yourself instead. Also, do you have a direct response?
I do. It is a direct response to Kyle, your comment, and I don't think asking for more information and supporting, a victim of what I see as police brutality and as racial profile and systemic racism as mutually exclusive things. As you see in the statement and in the statement released by the SFSS Board of Directors, we do actually want more details, not only in the report that was given by the McKay summary is just what I will call it, is that was incredibly short and very ineffective. And something that I always also would like everyone to think about is SFU, like any other institution or anyone else with a significant financial gain to be made, are going to care a lot about their reputation. I hope that can be just a piece when we think about the information being shared to us by the university and how trustworthy it is. It's not something new that the university would have a gain to make out of holding back information or by commissioning their own report and then hiding the full summary findings of it. This is in no way to delegitimize the lawyer who conducted the report, but more so recognizing that this lawyer was essentially hired by SFU. And over the course of the year, I myself have had a lot of contact with different lawyers that we worked on different things. And essentially their job is, of course, to help us, to make sure that we're making the right decisions, etc. This could very much be a similar situation for the university. So as a part of the SFSS statement, we do want to see the full report. However, a full public inquiry to be done as well, where we are actually going to be stakeholders and students and community members all are going to actually have a part in this inquiry and be able to give full input, is going to be, I think, quite important as well. Again, there are little things that have been added to the summary, like the request for a safe walk. And I'll keep this quite short as I do kind of want to give a bit of background on this, is that anybody who wants to call a safe walk should be allowed to call a safe walk, point blank, period. Anybody who feels that they, are unsafe for whatever reason should be allowed to call a safe walk. However, you have to recognize that not every safe walk is called for, for the same reason, essentially. And oftentimes, as mentioned in the Black Caucus statement, Black folks are oftentimes seen as being a threat for simply existing in white spaces, whether they are actually doing anything that may be perceived as a threat or not. Again, Kyle, if I had seen you and I just thought, you know what, I don't feel safe around that guy, I want to call a safe walk, would you expect to have been removed from campus if you maybe had not been doing anything, or maybe, you were, depending on whatever the situation was, would you have expected to have just been removed from campus?
Also, I'm just going to cut you off there. You have surpassed 2 minutes with your direct response, and we are going to return to the list. Devin, you have the floor.
Yeah, maybe, and if I'm wrong, also can correct me on this, but I also saw the Black Caucus letter as a rejection of how SFU used legality and the way they handled the events to silence Black students and to silence Black, and just an overall condemnation of the entire investigation. So it's less, I think when we focus on these small details regarding the letter, rather than what we're actually talking about here, which is how SFU silenced students, did not do a proper report, or didn't give us information if they did do a proper investigation. So I think losing ourselves in the smaller little details there, rather than focusing on what the big issue is I think we need to focus on the bigger issue.
All right, thank you, Devin. Wei-Chun, you have the floor.
Yeah, I would just like to voice my support as well for this motion. I signed on to the letter as well as a board member. As personally, I believe the statement, everything that's written in the statement as well, with everything everyone's kind of been saying, specifically, especially around the safe walk. There's no actually policies quoted in the summary or within, can be found with the campus public safety safe walk website. So there's nothing that states that a person has to remove if a safe walk is called upon them. And yeah, just a full inquiry, public inquiry, and a full release of the statement of the full report with identifiable information redacted, because we need to see the full report on what's been said and how this whole process was done. And yeah, I think the statement clearly states how SFU doesn't understand how systemic racism plays in institutions and how it plays out in policies, and how these vague policies have disproportionately affected marginalized communities and people. And especially as people have said, Black people has been perceived as like dangerous or aggressive just by simply existing in white spaces. So yeah, that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Wei-Chun. Going down the list, Manuel, you have the floor.
Hi, thanks. This is just more for like a clarification, just to make sure I'm not mishearing. I was wondering if I could get a definition for what white space is, just because that's a term I haven't heard before.
Also,
I can kind of give a bit of context, as there is no specific definition for white spaces in particular, but I think it needs to be in the context of a larger view of, the spaces and institutions that we take up residence and education, et cetera, in Canada, where, we have a long history of colonialism and of, just harm being done to people of color, in particular, Indigenous people. To be honest, if I want to talk about the people who have been most harmed, white spaces are talking about the white supremacy that infiltrates pretty much every level, I think, of, our education system, our healthcare system, et cetera, et cetera. And while, we can do little things to work towards bettering these, at the end of the day, we're here on stolen land that were stolen by colonizers, and that definitely aids to the fact that we are, in white spaces where white supremacy is and continues to be an issue. So there's not really a particular definition. However, I hope that you can kind of realize that, racial profiling is very, very real, in which two folks who are doing the exact same thing, someone who may not be doing anything, may be racially profiled. So that does not happen to white people. It happens to people of color and racialized people.
thank you, Asab. Tony, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi. I wanted to talk about a concern about a certain line I had with the statement. Well, it's not a concern, but like a worry where I have it says we wholeheartedly reject the findings of the report. I've a worry that perhaps that in a way that this line might be reviewed by the student body because of how polarizing this whole situation has been. I'm afraid that saying something like this might come across to people as saying, oh, we don't believe that any of this information is accurate or has no merit. And given how toxic the conversation discussions around this topic has been in the past few days, I just want to make sure that we aren't doing anything to kind of further that or in a way. So, because I want to find a way for where we and, as council and SFSS can kind of bridge the gap with the student body that has kind of had contentions with the whole situation. And yeah, that was the kind of worry I had.
Thank you. Devin?
Well, I do understand that concern, and I have seen, the toxic environment that has resulted online in a lot of these conversations. I think as SFS members, as DSU and constituent leaders, we made a commitment to diversity and inclusion that involves representing our DSUs, but also representing all students, which includes Black students, which includes Indigenous students. And so I don't, and again, Asab, as one of the writers, can correct me if I am wrong, but I don't believe rejecting the investigation means rejecting every single little fact in that investigation. And instead is how that investigation was handled. The information that students who have been given is what is important and what is being rejected. So I think by trying to appease every single student or every single person on the internet, we would be failing our duties as counselors.
Thank you, Devin. Charlotte, you have the floor.
I just want to offer my support as well, and I entirely agree with what Devin just said. I think it isn't really our place in this to necessarily represent the everyone's wishes, because as Devin mentioned, that's virtually impossible. I think we have people of color, Black students here telling us what they need, what they want, and what they wish out of this, and our concern in this honestly should just be to amplify their voices because they are the ones affected by this every day. So I think that it is important that we follow through with this motion.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak on this motion? Please list yourself now. Akum.
Hi, it's Akam.
Sorry.
I also, it's okay. So I just wanted some clarification on the last line of the report where it states that we demand that the ongoing issue of racial profiling and discrimination at SFU be addressed immediately, including tangible change to SFU policies and standard operating procedures and policies. Regardless of my personal opinion on the topic, when SAS was discussing this report at our last meeting, just the wording of the statement came up, and we were wondering if there were any specified changes that the Black Caucus was calling from in the procedures and policies, just so that I can also report back to the SAS exec team.
Thank you. Also, you have a response?
Yeah, and I apologize if I am taking up a lot of space here. I just wanted to give context as I am a member of the Black Caucus on kind of the wording behind this. But as you guys may have noticed in the summary as well, SFU actually alludes to needing to make changes as well to their policies and procedures, which is, I think, kind of contradictory to the messaging of the summary overall, that there was no wrongdoing on the part of following policies and procedures. I apologize, a little bit off topic, but with this, it is addressing and including tangible changes to policies and standard operating procedures, et cetera, to make sure that we have processes in place in the case that, we need to escalate a situation, or, making sure that there is proper de-escalation training, et cetera, making sure that, when we can have something end non-violently and in a way that is amicable with all parties, that should be the most important way forward. And also, another piece that is troublesome is that we don't actually have public record of these policies and procedures. We need to see them. SFU has admitted that they need to change them, but we do also need to see them, and we need to see the changes that are being made and that need to be made.
Thank you, Aslab. Sharik, you have the floor.
Yeah, hi. I just wanted to kind of raise up a point about, I think we might be jumping ahead a little bit too far with this because we're going from A to Z and not actually examining anything in between. So the statement is, the way it's worded is, we're wholeheartedly rejecting a report that we haven't even seen yet, right? So like, if putting the statement out and being in support of it, it seems like you've already made up your decision about the situation before this report has even been made public, right? So maybe there might be a little bit of caution in terms of waiting before something like this would go through.
Thank you, Sharik. Serena, you have a direct response.
Yeah, I think what is meant, I could be corrected as well, but by wholeheartedly rejecting the findings of the report is the summary of the McKay report that was released. One of the calls of the SFU Black Caucus is also to release the full report, so we do have that information. So I think that's just a point of clarification, is what it's wholeheartedly rejecting is the summary that was put out.
Thank you, Serena. Is there any further discussion on this item? Yes, Manuel.
I just wanted to say that I'm fully in support of getting more information on it. I'm just sort of aligning with what Sharik was saying. I'm a little hesitant on taking action before we have, this information that we're calling for, which I think is good because I agree the summary is a little, I don't know, troubling when you read it. But I think I would just be more comfortable taking action after receiving more information.
Thank you, Manuel. Alvin, you have the floor.
Feel free to provide feedback on what I think. We could make the distinction that we are in support of the SFU Black Caucus and support their statement. And then further on, when we do get information or lack thereof, we could make our own statement as council.
Thank you, Alvin. Serena?
I just want to add another point that wanting the full report is wanting the full details of it, but I think it might be naive to assume that if we received the full report that the conclusions would be different. And that's part of wholeheartedly rejecting the report, is that the conclusions that they gave are conclusions from the full report that they've summarized into a small report for us. So I think the conclusions that we have access to are in of itself problematic and are most likely representative of the full report, because that's what a summary is.
Thank you, Serena. Also, you have the floor.
Thanks, Aid. I think another piece to the rejection of the report wholeheartedly and as a whole is that a lot of the conclusions that we came to in the summary are stated as fact when they are assumptions that cannot be clearly ascertained, particularly when they noted that there was no interview conducted with the victim of the arrest. So that, I think, is a big piece. I fully agree with Serena in that, we can ask for details so that we can also draw our own conclusions, and that, rejecting the findings is in part rejecting the summary as a whole because it's contradictory and it's not full. It doesn't have any of the full detail.
Thank you, Asab. Would anyone else like to speak on this motion? Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing no further discussion, we're now going to move to vote on this motion. Once again, going to read it out before we go into voting. The motion reads, whereas the McKay report summary investigating the Black alumnus arrested on December 11th, 2020 was released on March 11th, 2021, whereas on October 14th, 2020, Council unanimously voted in favor of a motion titled Black Lives Matter Solidarity, which included that Council stands in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement and Black and Indigenous peoples who continue to be disproportionately subject to violence due to over-policing. Whereas on December 16th, 2021, Council voted in favor of signing on to the Black SFU staff and allies letter, which condemned the violent arrest and supports anti-racism efforts for the empowerment and protection of Black communities. Whereas the SFU Black Caucus released a statement on March 12th, 2021 that wholeheartedly rejects the findings of this report and counted as further evidence of systemic racism at SFU. Be it resolved that Council and SFSS councillors who vote in favor of this motion sign on to and support the SFU Black Caucus statement titled SFU Black Caucus Response to the Release of McKay Report on the December 11th Violent Arrest of a Black SFU Alumnus. Be it further resolved that Council distributes the SFU Black Caucus response to the release of the McKay Report and amplifies the calls of the caucus. We're going to be voting on this via roll call. When I call on you, please state whether you are in favor, against, or abstaining from voting on this item, on this motion. Starting with archaeology. Archaeology. Bachelor of Environment.
The Bachelor of Environment Student Union abstains.
Just a note for everyone, abstention is generally when you have lack of detail, and it is essentially the same as voting against a motion since we do need to have a simple majority. Just something to keep in mind. Behavioral neuroscience. Oh, forgot they're not present. BPK.
BBK abstains because I don't believe I've been able to discuss this properly with my DSU yet.
Chemistry.
Chemistry vote abstain.
Computer science. Criminology.
Criminology votes in favor of releasing this.
Data science.
Data science vote abstains.
Earth science.
Earth science is in favor.
Economics.
Economics is in favor.
Education.
I'd like to abstain for the same reason as BPK.
Engineering science.
Engineering votes in favor.
As written in the chat, archaeology is in favor. For the record, English.
English is in favor.
Environmental science.
Environmental science votes in favor.
French.
French votes in favor.
Gender, sexuality, and women's studies.
Gender studies votes in favor.
Geography.
GSU votes in favor.
History.
History abstains.
Humanities.
Humanities votes in favor.
Indigenous Studies Student Union.
Indigenous Studies Students Union votes in favor.
Interactive Arts and Technology.
IATSE votes in favor.
International Studies.
International Studies votes in favor.
Labor Studies.
Labor Study votes in favor.
Linguistics. Linguistics. Mathematics.
Mathematics votes against.
Mechatronics. Mechatronics is the regrets. MBB.
MBB votes against.
Operations.
OR votes against.
Philosophy.
Philosophy abstains.
Physics.
Physics is against.
Political science is not here. Psychology.
Psychology votes in favor.
Science is in favor. Society of Arts and Social Sciences.
SAS votes in favor.
Sociology and Anthropology.
Sociology and anthropology votes in favor.
Software Systems.
Software systems votes in favor.
Statistics.
Statistics votes in favor.
Sustainable Energy Engineering Student Society.
SFSS votes in favor.
World Literature.
Abstain.
Disability and Neurodiversity Alliance.
DNA votes in favor.
FNSA.
FNSA votes in favor.
Women's Center Collective.
Women's Center votes in favor.
All right, just one moment while I tally. All right, this motion passes. We have 24 in favor, 8 abstentions, and 4 against. All right, now moving on to item 9.2, Board BIPOC Committee appointment. The motion reads, whereas there's a vacancy for the council representative seat on the Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Committee, be it resolved the council recommend to the Board of Directors that appoint X to the BIPOC Committee as the council representative. Anyone like to move this motion?
MBBSU moves.
MBBSU moves. Would anyone like to second?
FNSA seconds.
NSA seconds. Before we go into voting or hosting elections, essentially, I'd like to first hear, is there anyone here who is interested in running for this position? I think I will just go ahead and call for nominations. So for those who are not familiar, essentially when we want to recommend someone to a position, we have a period where we allow nominations. So you can unmute yourself when I do open the floor call for nominations. You may unmute yourself and state your name. Once we have enough nominations, or once I've done all 3 calls for nominations, those who have nominated themselves will then be given 2 minutes each, or I think we can do 1 minute per person to motivate for the position, and then we'll be followed by a vote to elect someone. So having said that, I'm now going to open the floor for nominations. This is the first call for nominations. This is the second call for nominations. This is now the third and final call for nominations. All right, nominations are now closed. Seeing that nobody has nominated themselves for this position, if it is agreeable with everyone, I'm going to withdraw this motion as I was the one who put it forward on the agenda. Are there any objections? Seeing no objections, this motion has been withdrawn. All right, we're now going to move on to item 10, discussion items, starting with 10.1, student cybersecurity. This item was put onto the agenda by Kyle, so you will have the floor first.
Thank you, Zay. So as we've all probably remember, this written break we received an email from SFU in regards to security breach that I believe occurred on March 5th, or maybe getting the dates wrong. In this email, it says that 200,000 accounts were accessed and had various degrees of personal data released. And it also has come into light that this is due because what the form it was on was an unlocked Excel spreadsheet. I brought this discussion up to council to hope to hear some thoughts on, is SFU actually caring about our internet private security, especially now considering we're all online. Even more so, is SFU actually taking the correct responses and proactivity to ensure that we don't have to be afraid that our information will someday get lost or stolen, even when we're far graduated from SFU. Because if you recall, this data breach occurred on people who up until 2012 were involved with SFU. And also recently, there's also the fact that this is not the first data breach that happened with the year. There was another one that occurred about last February, I believe 17th. Interesting. To even build on to this more, I'll post a link in chat. There is currently a class action lawsuit being filed against SFU for this particular data breach because it's affected so many people. And going forward, what can council do to pressure SFU to say, hey, this level of cybersecurity where there can be 2 major attacks within a single year is completely unacceptable? What are we going to do to say, like, push for our students to show that as their information is safe.
Great, I was muted. Thank you, Kyle. If anyone would like to speak on this, please do list yourself in the chat. This is definitely something that we should be discussing. I mean, it's honestly almost become a common occurrence having some kind of data leak for student information at SFU. It's honestly concerning to see that it's happening on almost like a yearly basis. I'm honestly starting to question, the level of security that is kind of being employed to protect student information. If this is something that keeps happening, I honestly would want to hear more from SFU to know what exactly they're going to be doing to keep our information safe. What are they trying to do better, now? Because honestly, I haven't heard about anything like that in the past. But yeah, it's good that you brought this up, Kyle. It is very interesting to hear that there is a class action lawsuit being filed against SFU for this. But yeah, I'd like to hear counselors' thoughts on this. Please do list yourself if you'd like to speak. See, Alvin, you have the floor.
Yeah. Does the board or any of our counselors have connections with IT in order to almost privately discuss with them? Because making any public information statements could entice more, I guess, attacks. Correct me if I'm wrong, any of you security folks. And at the second point is that regarding the class action lawsuit, who is filing it and why are they doing it, if anyone knows? Thank you.
Thank you, Alvin. I'm going to ask somebody else who may know, who is actually putting this lawsuit. I do know that some firm picked it up as something to go with, but I'm not sure who actually started it. The lawsuit is class action, so I believe it is on behalf of all students at SFU, is what they're trying to, I guess, make their case on. Also proceeds. Yes, Corbett, you have experience with IT at SFU. You may have your direct response.
Yeah, I worked for SFU IT, sorry, IT services, more on the audiovisual side. And so I can still reach out to some people privately, but also think the SFS board can also, because of our, we can go to SFU more directly and also ask what's, get a report on this or get some conversation going, because I was affected by it too. I received an email saying, all these things were leaked and stuff. And it's very frustrating because, as Kyle said, and I think I've seen on Reddit, there's been almost one a year for 5 or so years. There's been one issue or another for years. And yeah, so I think that's the board can definitely push this more directly. And I can try to reach out to who I can. It's going to be a bit challenging simply because essentially there's a class action lawsuit thing. I fully expect SFU will be very, very careful with what they say to anybody. So,
thank you, Corbett. Yeah, it is expected that with a class action going on that they will be tight-lipped. However, I would look favorably upon the board pursuing this. It really is, multiple times it's happened, almost yearly. I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but I've been getting a ton of spam calls ever since this kind of happened. I did before, but it seems like an uptake. Who knows if it's related? We see a direct response from Asab. You may speak.
Thanks, Aid. The only thing I would add is that this is something that we have put on the university's radar, and we actually have a joint operations group meeting tomorrow with a number of SFU administrators who directly oversee the folks in IT services as well. And I don't know if this is something that might be helpful, but I do remember in my experience on the board last year, we actually had Mark Roman, who I believe is the head or director of IT services, come and speak with us about the last breach that happened. And I was wondering if council would be interested, maybe if he would want to come and speak to council as well on this topic. I can ask, I can't guarantee that he'll agree, but I know that a lot of you folks may have more in-depth questions as well about this particular issue. And I feel like just based on like the sheer number of people who are impacted, like current students, staff, alumni, like just it's kind of out of control. So I think that they should be open to meeting honestly with whoever asks.
Thank you also. That's great to hear. I'd definitely be for it to be able to have that kind of discussion with the head of IT to really clear up some of the questions that I know a lot of us do have with what's been going on. I mean, really just to kind of make a parallel here, just if you think about it, like I don't really know or I haven't heard of any kind of data breaches at UBC, but I mean we're both universities here in BC. We use a lot of the same software, maybe not for our mail systems, but I mean like if a similar sized university that's geographically so close to us and related to us doesn't have this kind of issue that's been ongoing, I'm really wondering, why is it something that's affecting us? So definitely would look forward to this to have some kind of discussion with the IT head. Also, if you could do that, would be great. I'll get in contact with you after the meeting. Just going back up the list. Was it Alvin or Wei Chun who was next? I'm gonna say I think it was Wei Chun.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, help for me in this board, and it's important as well. And it's pretty ridiculous for such a huge institution to find out that our data are being kept in a spreadsheet that's not encrypted. That's so dangerous. But yeah, I just want to mention as well, if people aren't familiar with how class action lawsuit works and stuff, especially like if people have concerns like who are going to pay for like the legal fees and stuff, I'm going to post a resource in the chat, but basically class action lawsuits are like any financial stuff absorbed by the firm and they're approved for by the firm. And yeah, it seems like they're asking for all sorts of things, but one of the things I think is pretty good is that if this was to be won, that the defendant, which is SFU, shall like offer credit protection to each member affected for a period of 5 years. So that's kind of a nice thing to in there if people if the case is won and that students have who are compromised have that protection, because you have people getting spam calls and could be people impersonating their identity and stuff. So yeah, just want to put that information out there.
Yeah, thank you, Wei Chun. Yeah, it is important to really think about what kind of information SFU stores of ours. So that includes things like our social insurance number, addresses, phone numbers, date of birth, a lot of information that personally identifies us. And if we don't know exactly what was leaked, there was a large range of things that were sent out in that email, things that could have been leaked, but it could cause a lot of damage, and we definitely, I think we're owed. Okay, so Wei Chun says that our social security numbers, our social insurance numbers were not leaked, so that is great, but still not the best thing to hear that other personal information has been leaked. Going to move down the list. Kyle?
Thank you. So I'm just going to post a link directly to the actual claim from the law firm and the notice issued to SFU. This contains all the information as well as the main plaintiff of this who started this class action. It goes through all the details, and it's a rather well compiled document full of course, legal jargon and a bunch of repetition. But if you're able to parse through that, I think it's a very good resource to bring to your students, to bring to your student body, to let them know about what's going on with SFU, and make them aware, especially if they were actually impacted by this. Thankfully, I know I'm not aware of anyone personally who was impacted, but if they were, tell them to get in contact and learn about their options going forward. And now on to the actual main part of the session. While I know that this is not something that's going to be handled through a single discussion at council, as we can see, it happened last year, it happened again this year. It's obviously not a small issue. It's obviously something at a much higher level of the administration. However, I think I sort of just want us to start thinking about how we can spread this information and make it so people are aware and can start pressuring SFU that say, hey, this is unacceptable, the way you're treating our information, especially for the prices we pay and for the level of education we are expecting to receive. 2 data breaches within a single calendar year. The fact that we even have to worry about data breaches going forward is just unacceptable, and we need to push more for them.
Thank you, Kyle. Definitely in agreement there. So while this time, our information like our social security numbers were not leaked, seeing that this is a recurring event, it's very possible that they could be leaked in the future. Charlotte, you have the floor.
One other thing that I just wanted to point out is that a lot of different students actually got different lists of what was breached and what wasn't. Like all of the lists were different. They were all sent out during different days as well. So like the list that you got is different than the one that I got. So all of them said different pieces of information were stolen.
Thank you for clarifying that, Charlotte. Is there any further discussion on this item? So for action items, this is something that we would want counselors to take back to talk about with their DSUs regarding, what's been going on with this and preparing any questions that they might have. And I'm going to speak with Asab about getting the head of IT to hold a discussion with us, possibly some form of presentation, so that we can pose any questions and concerns we might have and see exactly what SFU is doing to really do better for protecting our private information. All right, seeing in the chat, Corbett is asking if we're looking to extend the meeting. Would anyone like to motion to extend the meeting to cover the last 3 discussion items? All right, I'm going to move to extend the meeting then. I'm going to motion to extend the meeting by 30 minutes, so till 6:30. Anyone like to second this motion?
Math seconds.
Math seconds. Any discussion? Anyone for or against extending today? I specifically would really like to get to the budget consultation. I do think we should get some discussion on that today, so we can kind of follow up with it maybe at our next meeting. So that's really why I do want to extend this. All right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move to amend this motion to change it from extending the meeting to 6:30 to 6:15, just so that we can get that one item in at least. Would anyone like to second this amendment?
Engineering seconds.
Engineering seconds. I'm going to seek unanimous consent on this amendment. Seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to dissent, please object now. Once again, this is just on the amendment. All right, seeing no objections, the amendment carries. Now the motion is to move to extend the meeting till 6:15. Don't think there's any discussion. We're just going to go to vote on it. I am going to seek unanimous consent. So seeking unanimous consent, if you'd like to dissent or object, please say so now. Seeing no objections, this motion passes. All right, so we will end in roughly 15 minutes. Back to our discussion items. We're now going to move on to item 10.2, budget consultation. Would anyone like to speak on this? Corbett, I'm expecting you'd like to have a few words.
Just a few. Okay, so hi everyone. I sent this out yesterday, and both in the council Discord as well as the agenda email thread. I understand that's not a lot of time to go through it fully, but this is just a discussion point with a discussion item with the goal of that everyone can either have some initial thoughts or comments. Else, you can also take it back to your student unions and discuss it further, and ideally have more feedback in 2 weeks at the next council meeting. So the point of this, and this proposal I've already initially presented to the board at a development session last week. No, sorry, 2 weeks ago. And since then, I had some additional feedback, and I incorporated into the proposal. That's why it took so long to get it back out to this group. So fundamentally, it's about back in after I'm going to start after our annual general meeting. We passed a number of the membership at the meeting passed a significant number of bylaw changes that restructured the government the board structure, the governance structure of the SFS to have both the executives and council merged together, and to form a new board of directors for May 1st. And the at-larges and faculty rep positions, the current ones, would become, will be removed, so to speak, and shut down. They would cease to exist. And so there was talk initially about, okay, how would that work with cost stipends and everything else? And initially at the meeting, I believe I said one idea is to just redistribute those funds from the farm, as the term is, faculty and at-large representative members, to counselors, and that worked out to maybe around $100 per meeting. Since then, I have had more time to think about things and talk about different ideas with people in the board and others. And as part also the collective agreement negotiations with our union, I've had more time to model out our finances for multiple years. And I believe that, and also in the meantime, I also had Sarah Edmonds, our campaigns research and policy coordinator, do some research into the whole stipend system, as much of the history to go back to, because I knew as from being a past board member that the stipends hadn't changed for quite a while, but I just didn't know how long or how the whole system worked. And so she was able to do this research, and she came back and said, which I've linked in this proposal, stating that the last time stipends have been changed at all was 2008. So that's 13 years ago. And so all that combined together, I looked at the idea that this is a good opportunity to, with this new governance model coming in place, to reevaluate and propose a different remuneration system for not just the executives, but also the council members going forward. Because this whole year has kind of been like a relaying of foundations. And I thought, if we're going to keep doing that, we should also look at the way people our student leaders are paid or are remunerated, but also come across it from not just like, hey, this group is getting paid more than us, so we should match it kind of thing, but rather from foundational principles. And so the foundational principle I selected was a living wage. And what a living wage is basically, it's a wage that is calculated for a person to survive in their area, to cover all their core stuff, their some housing, some like usually rentals, food, clothing, some basic clothing, cell phone, transportation, just the general things you would need to exist effectively. It's higher than a minimum wage, which is this set for a person to be outside of, to survive through it. It's basically the poverty level is a minimum wage. A living wage is higher than that, and it's there for you to actually survive. In the proposal, I go into more detail on how a living wage is calculated, and I have links there to go in more detail if you're curious about the framework and how it's decided. But it's generally a good way to provide some kind of some kind of floor, I think, that we can use as some kind of base. And generally the reason why this is, and this living wage will change from city to city, province to province. It all varies, and it can change from year to year as well. But we needed somewhere to go, because when you do the current, when you run the math on how the current stipend amounts work out to be for, at least for executives, and also for the at-large and faculty reps, is that when you work out the expected number of hours that people work each week, we're below minimum wage now, at $14.50 an hour. Stipends are not actually calculated an hourly rate, but it's an easy way for people to understand and see how a model works and how to budget things, as opposed to just a flat amount like 2,000 or 3,000. Okay. But stipends are much more closer to like a salary setup, in the sense that there's some average hours you're expected to work, you get a certain flat amount, and if you're not doing your job well enough, then people that provide oversight can then start questioning you on that. The current policy is also, current system based on this current board structure has penalties tied into, a lack of, like if you're late regularly, if you're missing your reports, there's penalties for that. So the model, so yeah, okay, that's a lot right on one spot. Then give me a second to jump into where I was at. So as I said, this hasn't changed since 2008. And so if you even took the $14.50 an hour item and matched it for inflation, that works out to be almost $18 an hour, which is kind of close to what I'm pitching for this year, for an increase for next year, not this year. And I have some additional numbers about like how much that would cost in student fees and stuff, just for additional information for yourself, because just seeing a big number, it doesn't really have much context when you see like 300,000 a year. So as I said, so going through the budgetary stuff, the current estimates or the current model costs us are up to about 300,000 a year in stipends and payments and benefits and such. That's with the current board model. It's not 100% exactly 300,000, because there's stipend reductions. Not everyone claims their benefits, all that kind of stuff, but it's generally around 300,000 a year. And I've run the numbers to see how that gets calculated for you. The redistribution model is what I pitched originally, or mentioned originally back in October, with the idea of just taking the stipends from the outgoing faculty and at-large reps and then redistributing it to council representatives. But it doesn't really cost that much difference than a living wage model, simply because if we were to take all the benefits from board and council that currently exists and spread it out over 60-something members, it works out to be an extra 70-something thousand a year and these benefits are covering for cell phone and UPass effectively, or parking pass in some cases. And the reason why that is because the living wage model factors in things like cell phone costs, average cell phone costs, and average transportation costs for a person. So the numbers are very similar in the end of the day, and the total cost potentially up to students is pretty close to the same. The main difference is using the idea of what is your kind of wage per hour to calculate as an amount. And right now, $19.50 is the last number I saw in 2019 as for Metro Vancouver's living wage. And so the goal is, and the reason why it's split up over multiple years as opposed to just being a big $4 an hour jump, is because there is still some financial uncertainty this next fiscal year, with the mixture of us hopefully coming out of this pandemic, in the fall. There is some reduction in revenue through FIC and potentially it's always a guess on, if enough people are still going to be going to SFU or not each year. So to be cautious, I model it to have this living wage correction, if you want to look at it that way, takes 2 years to achieve. And the big difference between the current model and this new model, say after the second year, would be about $140,000 difference. It is a large amount of money increase, but it's something that's been long overdue. And this is always a very sensitive topic to I know every single board has talked about the idea of raising wages, or raising their stipends, but everyone doesn't do it because they are, understandably don't want to be, giving themselves a pay increase when students are struggling. And this is going to be a challenge too, because theoretically, we're coming out of a pandemic. A lot of students are hurting. So the optics on this is not great, but it's something I think it's a time that I think this is a long overdue correction, and this is probably the best opportunity for us to have this discussion and look at doing our model a different way. So thank you, and please, if you have any initial questions or concerns or how I got certain numbers or anything, please let me know.
Thank you, Corbett. Just before we get into discussion, I was just wanting to, first of all, voice my support for looking at, this kind of staggered living wage model over the plain redistribution model. Something that I remember I discussed with Corbett and just wanted to note was that with the redistribution model and with council becoming the board, that would make us privy to remuneration for cell phone bills and transportation costs, which would be very tricky to implement with the amount of turnover that we do get. So with the living wage model, that does include those costs in it already, rather than something that would be on top of the redistribution increase. This is something that we do really need to talk about, as we are going to be, saddled with a lot more work, as we are going to be the legal board of directors. The time that we commit is going to be increased by quite a bit, but something that I really do want everyone to really think about and to talk a bit with, their DSUs and with other counselors is how many hours do they think that they currently put into council, and to really talk about and think about, projectedly how much would we be putting in bi-weekly as a board member. So thinking about, the meetings that we'll be attending, the committees that we'll be a part of, thinking about those hours. And it's also a question that I do have for Corbett that I'd like to hear more about, is how you came up with these hours. So, for the executives, the 30 hours a week, and then for council representatives, it'll be 5 hours, vice chair 7.5. I'd really like to have us a discussion on that, about how we're calculating these hours. Second, as you guys all do really know, I'm really focused on, accountability and kind of oversight. So I really want to have that discussion regarding what happens when, executives or representatives are not putting in these hours that we're trying to be paying them with this model. So our current policies that we have for penalties, I'm not honestly sure how they are enacted or whether they have been enacted, but I can say 100% in previous years, there have been many executives who have, not submitted any kind of work reports, have zero evidence of them doing any kind of work whatsoever, and have been sitting and collecting stipends. So that is a concern that I have, and it's something that I know we're going to really need a big discussion about what kind of penalties and what kind of oversight are we going to have as council, for not just executives but also for ourselves, if we do choose to go with a pay increase like this. Sorry, I did speak quite a bit there. There's a lot that I do have to say on this topic, and we're definitely going to have more discussion at this at our next meeting, and it's going to be something we really need to look into overall. Yeah, I do have a lot of things to say, but Alvin, are you sure you don't want to speak?
If you want a question or something, that's totally, I can maybe answer 2 questions at once kind of thing, as before the meeting ends.
All right, I think Alvin's rescinded it. So Corbett, if you would like to just give a little background on how you chose those target hours there.
Sure. The 30 hours are for executives are what's kind of currently listed in policy. It's generally the idea around, that's kind of like equivalent of like, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week kind of situation. Because most executives, I expect, will be working, like, okay, it's easy to say expect, but we've seen past, it's not always true, but with the changes to the governance model, it is a lot more work. It is a full-time job. However, some weeks are busier than others. I've had, especially this year, I've had some weeks where it's been 60 hours in a week. In other years, sometimes it's been 20. And so the 30-point average is also the idea of like, that's the target, and you know, hopefully people can stay in and around that, or maybe a little bit more here and there. But if you do have to work extra hours, then say an extra 10 hours, that's only 40, as opposed to, you know, my fear is if we put say 40 hours or so a week, and then someone has to go from 50 to 60, or regulars doing 50, they'll burn out. It is still somewhat of an arbitrary number because we do need to have something to put down on paper. As for the 10 hours for counselors, the way I imagine it was, if in the future we're going to have like use one board meeting a week, every 2 weeks, there'll be probably at least 3 hours. So, you know, 3 hours of sitting in the time in the meeting and making decisions and motioning and voting, 3 to 4 hours to prep time or communicate with your members, and then probably 2 to 3 hours of committee type work, because ideally we need to have everyone's supposed to be on one committee if we can get that way. And so that's worked out to be around 10 hours as a simple number, but I am open to, if you find currently in your current roles, it's taken at least 10 hours every 2 weeks, then I'm happy to explore it further. It's just, we also have some budgeting constraints, which I mentioned in the report, just how I'm taking a certain percentage for this, certain percentage for that item. At the end of the day, this is still part of the whole budgeting consultation process. So, you know, I'm happy to get feedback on how much you're currently working, and I expect that will probably go up a bit in this new model.
Thank you, Corbett. Just a couple last few words from me before we do end the meeting. So yeah, Corbett did just kind of list out, this is like, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. This is a new model, so it is something that we don't know exactly how it's going to turn out. We don't really know exactly how many hours counselors are going to be putting in, because, you know, we can't be comparing ourselves exactly to the faculty reps and at-large representatives, since they did sit on, you know, more committees. But obviously the work is going to be more than it is currently. So it is really a bit of a guessing game and something we're going to adjust with. And I'm sure that, you know, after this year, which is essentially going to be a trial, there will be maybe some adjustments made further on. But just where I'm going to have to end this off, since we are reaching the end of our extended time here. Again, just for everyone to really take some time to think about, review some of the responsibilities that have been kind of outlined for the new council reps as board members. Charlotte, just an answer for you. In here, it is 10 hours for every 2 weeks. Yeah, as Corbett said, so 5 hours a week. The pay that's on here is bi-weekly. So just something to think about, how many hours you currently put in as a council representative, and then thinking about sitting on one committee. So for those of us who are on board committees, thinking about the time we put in there, potentially how many hours that might be overall. And also just thinking about, you know, what kind of ways we'll be able to hold people accountable. So as you guys know, that I'm very interested in, you know, developing our oversight committee and, you know, just developing our policies as well. So thinking about, you know, if we do have people that say, you know, unfortunately, don't put in the work, how can, you know, future councils hold them accountable for it, and, you know, make sure that they're not just taking, you know, students' money without putting in, you know, work. We've been, you know, really lucky that this year we've had a ton of, you know, very hardworking people in the board, very cooperative board members that have been willing to work with us, and hopefully that's going to continue next year. But we really don't know what it might be a few years from now, and that's something that I really want us to be prepared for. But as it does seem like we're over time here, I'm going to let everybody go. Do really think about this, read over the report, and be prepared for discussion on it again. Come up with any questions or anything that you'd like to speak about. And if there are no objections, I'm going to then postpone our next 2 items, the SFSS Town Hall and Space Campaign, to our next meeting. Just a little update for the Space Campaign. I will be reaching out to everyone regarding it in the Discord. If you haven't already sent out the email to your department or faculty administration. Kyle has kindly written and he's kindly drafted some templates that can be used and has posted them in the Discord. So please take a look at those. If you guys need any help or support with getting started with that, please do reach out. But yeah, if there's no objections, we will be postponing these last two items. All right, seeing no objections, then we will just move on. So announcements, our next council meeting will be on the 31st. I know it's going to be getting close to exams. We will have to think about whether we're going to have 1 or 2 meetings in April. I think I might have a poll for that to see what everyone's availability is like, and then also maybe we'll have some discussion in the Discord. But yeah, that's all for announcements, attachments. We're going to move straight to adjournment. Yes, Gabriel, you can make a quick announcement.
Hi, everybody. I'm working on a project to expand COVID-19 relief funding from the society. I'm currently looking for folks who are interested in getting involved potentially with an honorarium to help draft policy around around the SFSS distributing funds that we have set aside in the SFSS budget. So if this sounds like something you might be interested in doing, do give me an email. We're looking to, make sure that we have a really comprehensive policy for how we're evaluating how to compensate folks and how to support each other. And, in the end, this is a project about mutual aid to folks in our community. So shoot me an email if you are interested.
Thank you, Gabriel. So just, sorry, just to confirm again. So this is regarding COVID relief fund, like the funds we put aside for supporting students as we come out of COVID. Is that what it's about?
Yeah, so that if we do this through SFU, it's going to disenfranchise a lot of students who are part-time. So it's critical that we support those folks as well, even who maybe can't be full-time because they're got to work. So we wanted to make this available to as many people as possible. It's just not possible to do that through SFU.
Okay, that sounds great. Thank you, Gabriel. I'll drop that in our Discord as a reminder with your email for everyone. Oh, Wei Chun, you'd like to say something? Please do make it quick. We're a bit over time.
Oh yeah, I heard from Science DSU, and if any Science DSU council are still here, please feel free to jump in. But what I heard from most Science DSU is that they're not able to use most of their funds, core funds, before the end of the fiscal year, so it's going to get reset. But a lot of Science DSU expressed that they want to be able to carry forward their current funds to the next fiscal year and not get a reset, because they think that it will be a waste of student money if it's just always sitting there and they're having trouble to utilize the funds. So wondering if there's possibility to for DSU to have the options to carry forward your current funds and not have a reset and have the additional funds from that be used for COVID relief. I don't know if that's an option, and maybe Corbett and someone can answer that.
Thank you, Wei Chun.
Yeah, and I'm also not looking for necessarily you folks. If you folks are communicating with other, you folks have your networks and community, it can be any SFSS member working on this. It does not need to be an elected person. We just want to make the team as strong as possible and, as responsive to the needs of regular SFSS members as possible. So, communicate it with your networks and see if there's anybody who might be interested as well.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Gabriel. Again, I'll put that as a reminder in the chat for everyone. Sorry, Corbett, we're over time here, so I'm just going to let everyone go. Thank you for that question, though, Wei Chun. That's something that has been discussed, I think, before, not here, but in a working group, and it is something we can look at maybe in policy discussion. All right, item 13.1, be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 6:21 p.m. Would anyone like to move this motion?
Math moved.
Math moves. Would anyone like to second?
Seconds.
Heard French seconds. All right, I don't think there's any discussion. I'm going to seek unanimous consent. Once again, seek unanimous consent. If you'd like to dissent, please unmute your microphone now. Seeing no objections, this motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. I will see you guys on the 31st. And please do keep track of our Discord announcements. I will be putting some info in there for Space Campaign and our other issues. See you all